the BMW iX40, and today we're going to be reviewing the vehicle with all its quirks and features from front to back. But before we get into the detail, I'd like to share with you a bit of detail about BMW and their battery operated cars. They first introduced the i3 and the i8 a number of years ago, and both of those vehicles have been a great success. And now they've introduced their SUV, fully battery operated, and today we're going to look at all the detail as to how it fits into the rest of the SUV market. Then the model range of the iX also includes the iX50, and then later on, perhaps about 12 months from now, we'll be introducing the M60, which will be the M Sport version of the SUV. This current iX40 is around about 420 kilowatt. The iX50 is around about 520 kilowatt, and the M60, which will be the same body shape, the SUV, will be around about 640 kilowatt. So it's really going to be an exciting experience, the M range, when it gets introduced. So here we're in the front end of the iX, and I've got to say that the styling has been pretty controversial, and it takes a lot of getting used to in the sense of the design overall. And we'll start off in the front. The grille is a particularly large grille. This car doesn't actually need a grille, really, because it's a battery car, so there's no cooling requirements. But BMW has included this very large grille to create that impact. And what's interesting about this grille is that they claim to be a self-healing grille. In other words, if this gets damaged, they claim that this grille can heal itself. In other words, let's say it gets scratched, then this plastic will actually heal that scratch over time, over 24 hours. But it's to be seen, because I haven't actually seen an example thereof. Then what they've also included is the laser lights, the LED laser lights, which is part of this package, left and right, but these are quite traditional, because these are fitted to most of the BMWs currently. And then the most controversial part of it is this section of the front bumper, which is quite unusual, particularly when it's on a white vehicle. It's actually quite impactful. You might like it and you might not, but this is quite impactful. To the front area of the iX, the front bonnet does not open. It's a fixed bonnet. Would be great if this could have been an area for storage, but unfortunately it's not. The only thing that opens on the front end is the BMW badge, quite unusual, and this is for washer fluid, or your washer fluid entry point, and that opens up and you can then refill your washer fluid. So that is the only area that opens up on the front end of the iX. Further to the styling of the iX, I've got to say it takes a lot of getting used to, because it's quite different to the silhouette that is provided to us in the traditional X5. It is got a lot of gold trimming underpinning the windows front to back. The door handles in gold front to back, and these are just holes in the doors with a little button which you open the door. But further down you have the black carbon fiber stripe right at the bottom, and then, as you will note, as you come to the rear, that gold trimming works all the way back and underpins the iX badge. So very different to the current X5 range. And now, as far as the wheel options are concerned for the iX, this particular iX has the M Sport package, which comes out with 21-inch wheels. As you can see, it's got the blue M Sport calipers, but this particular wheel choice is not necessarily the most efficient, because the standard iX comes out with 19-inch wheels, and the 19-inch wheels are far more efficient in the sense of the rotation, operating in relation to the battery's efficiency. So the 21-inch limits the range more than that of the 19-inch, purely because it's a drag on the battery. So the 21-inch will limit your range of 360 kilometers, which is the range of this particular vehicle, the iX40, 360 kilometers, and that can limit the range by 60 to 75 kilometers. So not necessarily the most efficient, but I got to say the most attractive wheel in the sense of the 21-inch. Really looks good on this car. It fills the gap really nicely. So very pretty, but not necessarily the most efficient. Round to the rear of the iX, also quite an unusual or minimalistic rear end. You will note that the lights are very narrow and very modern, left and right. The BMW badge is oversized and houses the camera. Then as you move down, you have the gold iX, and then you have the xDrive 40. So all in gold, the trimmings are all in gold. Then as you go down, the lower bumper includes that controversial black trimming like we have in the front. Is not as big as the one in the front. And then of course you have your false exhaust ports, which are not exhaust ports because this is a battery car. You'll see on the left and the right, and that also houses brake lights left to right. So really minimalistic rear end, and I think this is the future design and styling of the future BMWs going forward. Further to the rear end, what is quite disappointing related to this minimalistic design is the placement of the rear window wiper. It sits right in the middle at the end, right in your face. In my opinion, it should have been included underneath the window spoiler, which would hide it completely, similar to the Range Rover, and then would complete this minimalistic rear end. But this seems to be in the face in relation to the design overall. That would have been perfect if it was located underneath the window spoiler. Moving to the interior of the iX, it's a very futuristic design. The materials that are included within the vehicle are all sustainable products. For example, the leather that is included in the vehicle is all dyed with olive dye, and the leather has all been sustainably sourced. Then the minimalistic design has gone further by BMW moving all the controls to the floating console in the center of the vehicle, which really houses all of the controls, and the buttons on the dashboard have now completely disappeared. So what you have on the floating console is your iDrive controller, all in crystal, your volume control, your reverse, neutral and drive selector, your start button also in crystal, and then of course also sustainable wood. We have the navigation button, telephone button, media, your home button, your camera button. So all the buttons that you require to manage this vehicle are now controlled on the center floating console. Then the center console also has storage space, which is included in the center. Quite a large space, a lot bigger than the X1. So quite deep, a lot of space available for storage. And then of course underneath the floating console is your wireless charge pad. There we go. Your USB ports, a cigarette lighter, and then storage for your bottles or water or drinks, whatever you'd like to call it. So really a functional area, all the controls, storage, your charging port, and your drinks storage. Further to the styling of the of the iX. The door handles are quite interesting. They're basically holes in the door with a little button underneath, and you push the button, it opens the door. To the inside of the door, we have some really interesting quirks, and that is, first of all, the crystal seat controls, very unusual. And I mentioned these crystal controls in the interior on the center console. That is mirrored here as well. And then the door controls, we have a opening button, all electronic, that opens the door. Remember the button on the outside? That is controlled to open the door from the inside. And then the lock buttons, lock and open. And then if this all fails, you have the manual control down below, which is a lever which opens the door should you have an electronic failure. Then further to that, the starting again, we have a frameless door, which is very unusual in this SUV. Very few SUVs have this feature, which is quite a nice feature to have, and that is on both the front and the back door. To the inside of the doors, you can see the reclaimed plastic carbon fiber, which is basically used to create the tub of the vehicle, and you can see the exposed plastic carbon fiber on the door jambs. Then we have a very unusual sunroof feature. The sunroof doesn't open, but what it does do is allow light in and then block out the light completely. So with the push of this button, you will see that the sunroof allows light in, and then with a push of the button, it then blocks out the sunlight. A very interesting feature and very futuristic. Then one of the most unique features of the iX is probably, or is, the screen up front, which runs from left to right on the dashboard and provides the driver with all of the information required for managing the vehicle. And as far as the screen is concerned, the iDrive 8 system provides all the software to manage the screen. And we'll start off with the climate control. The climate menu, for example, you can control the temperature left and right at the bottom of the screen. However, what is quite disappointing is that the detailed controls for the climate control is all managed on the screen, which is quite distracting while driving. We have the navigation system, which is all touch control. And as you can see, we have Cape Town on the bottom of Africa, and we can zoom in on that just by the touch of the screen. We can go down to Cape Town, see our current location, which is Blouberg on the beachfront. There we go. You see the little orange arrow, that's exactly where we are. That's Blouberg on the beachfront. There we go. And we can zoom in. There we go. And we can say we want to go to BMW Century City from Blouberg. We can enter that, and it will give us the options, the road options to get to Century City. We can start the route guide. 23 minutes, 14 kilometers, and 64% battery usage. Or there's an alternative, 23 kilometers and with 64% battery usage. We'll move to the general modes in the vehicle, and we have personal, sport, efficient, expressive, relax, etc. And what is so nice, it's exactly the same as your Apple CarPlay, very interactive touchscreen. There we go, personal, sport, there we go, efficient, really nice and easy system to use. And then we have the start screen, your clock, your traffic en route, your route preview, your weather, car status, personal assistant, telephone, and then of course your navigation. We have our 360-degree camera. We have the front view, side view, and you will note the car is color coded in white, exactly the same as this vehicle. And then we have the right camera. There we go. So a really nice feature allowing you to park safely without any unnecessary bumps or scratches, and similarly in traffic. Back end of the iX, and it has enormous space for the rear passengers, more than enough leg room, foot space, and mainly due to the um, lack of a transmission tunnel, which allows unlimited space for the back passengers and the front passengers. The batteries sit under the floor, so you have unlimited space um, within the vehicle. A couple of quirks in the back area as well. We have USB ports, two USB ports on each seat. And then of course we also have this little slot here. You move it down and this carries all of the accessories which you can get from BMW for a hanger or for your picnic tray, which all fits into the slot in the back of the seat. So quite a nice feature. In the rear, we also have the climate control for the rear passengers, which allows the control of the 4-zone climate control. Then on the rear doors, we have the same mechanism as the front doors, electronic door opener, and should these fail, we have the same system below where we have the manual override lever to open the doors. And the iX has a very unique steering. It's hexagonal instead of a round steering, and it's a real unique feature within the vehicle. And now we're at the boot of the iX, and I would have expected it to have a lot more space. However, it's a lot smaller than I thought. It does have some storage space underneath the floor for storing all of the cables for charging, but by no means is it the space that I expected it to be. I expected it to be similar to the X5. Quite an interesting quirk is the tow bar, which pops out at the back and is rated at 2 tons. A real nice feature, and all electric. Of course, this is a closed boot. We have a safety feature, so if you are locked in the boot accidentally, you can actually open the boot from inside the vehicle. Another quirk of the iX at the rear is the rear taillights are included in the tailgate, and due to that, they've included a set of safety taillights in the body of the vehicle to give the vehicle the necessary safety when stopped on the side of the road with the tailgate up. This is what you see when you approach the interior of the iX. Beautifully finished in sustainable leather in a beautiful grey. Really a stunning place to be when driving the vehicle. Very minimalistic, a beautiful interior. The iX has incredible acceleration, 0 to 100 in just 6 seconds. The acceleration of the iX is one thing, but the ride comfort is another. It's as smooth as silk. It's as though you're driving in a super luxury car, which it is. But I can say that it is a far better and more comfortable ride than the X5, the traditional SUV by BMW. The iX gives a far more softer and more pleasurable ride at speed, and I've got to say this would probably be my choice over the X5 from a ride point of view. But one of the things I've got to remind everybody of is that the iX is far more expensive than the X5, probably about 30% more if you take all of the options within the iX. So the X5 is still a cheaper buy, more cost-effective buy than the iX. So that's our review of the iX40, and I've got to say it's an impressive vehicle, plenty of tech, and a real minimalistic interior and design, and I could replace my X5 with this quite easily. A lot more expensive, but with the tech and all of the new technology, a worthwhile buy, and I can recommend it to anybody.